Hello, dear listener. Please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy watching. My wife Megan and I were living an ordinary, not wealthy but not poor life in a small town in southern Arizona. Our house, quite spacious on the inside, was not far from the town center. We chose it so that both of us wouldn't have to commute too far to work. Over the years of our life together, we had accumulated a lot of various items. Megan, always looking for the best deals and discounts, would arrange the nicer items around the house, while the rest were stored in the closet, attic, or basement. Yes, she enjoyed collecting oddities, and she never missed a chance to use store coupons and discounts, which resulted in our home being filled with all sorts of clutter. At first, I found her peculiar hobby intriguing, and the house with its various figurines, trinkets, and frames looked more lived in. Sometimes I even bought random knickknacks for her. But as the years went by and the clutter continued to pile up, it began to irritate me. "Megan, did you bring something again?" I asked her when I saw her hauling 2 large bags home after a shopping trip. "Let me help. Why did you carry such a heavy load?" "Oh, there's nothing heavy here. Just bulky. You won't believe. I got this little thing for almost nothing. Listen, soon there won't be any room left for us. What do you plan to do with all this?" "What do you mean?" "Just take a look." She began unpacking her purchases. "Look at this floor lamp. I think it will look great in our bedroom, don't you?" "But we already have a floor lamp. Why do we need another one? Where are we gonna put it?" "Sweetie, don't worry. I'll rearrange everything. You'll see, it will look beautiful." And why did I think I could talk her out of it? She would always get her way. She pulled a floor lamp out of the bag, which only needed to be assembled on the base, attach the lampshade, and screw in a light bulb. I looked at it and understood why it was so cheap. Its condition didn't inspire confidence in its functionality. But I still gave in to her persuasions and spent a couple of hours of my weekend fixing up this new piece of furniture in our home. When I finished, it actually looked nice. The lampshade appeared to be handmade, with intricate cutouts. And when the light was on, it cast intricate shadows on the walls and ceiling. "See? I told you it would be beautiful and romantic," she admired. "Yes, it really is charming. But what are we going to do with this?" I pointed to our old floor lamp, which we had replaced with the new one. "There's no space for it now. We don't want to live in a storage room, do we?" "No, of course not. Why would we? We can put it in the garage. It will look great there, and it provides better lighting than your desk lamp." I looked at it, scratching my head, realizing that even in the garage there wasn't much space left. But for now I agreed with my wife, thinking I would find a suitable place for it later. "Okay, Megan, but we need to stop at this point. We're turning into a hoarder's paradise here. There's so much stuff in the house, and you don't even use most of it. Let's sell at least some of it. Have a garage sale. These things are just gathering dust." "Oh, come on. You're such a killjoy," she pouted. I carefully picked out everything for the coziness. "And you want to sell it all? Why don't you sell half of your tools and you'll have plenty of space then?" She turned around and left the bedroom. I sat down on the bed, looking at the new lamp, silently praying that Megan would agree to my proposal. Towards evening, our 2 sons returned from their friends' houses, and by the time they arrived, my wife had managed to bake a pie to celebrate our new acquisition. The older one didn't seem to care much about what she brought into the house. He just wanted to finish school and go study in a big city since he was getting tired of our town. Josh didn't want to stay here forever. He saw no future for himself here, and the girl he liked was also planning to study in another city. The younger one, Stan, who was only 12 years old, found it amusing to examine the new things that appeared in the house. He would ask his mother for some of them for himself. He would disassemble some items and then construct intricate creations, showcasing his inventive talent. He had asked for the old floor lamp, already envisioning what he could create with it. "I think he'll become an engineer when he grows up," my wife said to me after dinner when the kids had dispersed to their rooms, and Stan had dragged the old lamp with him. "Yes, you're right. He does have a talent. I think we should start looking for a college for him soon. We need to make sure he gets a good education. We've already prepared everything for Josh, We should do the same for Stan. Yes, absolutely, Megan replied, briefly looking away. Is something wrong? I asked, suspecting that something was amiss, or that she was keeping something from me. No, everything's fine. You're right. I'll go make some tea. Are you joining me? No, Megan. I'm not hungry. I'll go tinker in the garage while it's not completely dark. In the following days, our lives continued relatively uneventfully. But then I received a message from my brother who decided to surprise me with a visit. We hadn't seen each other in a long time. He had been living in England for quite a while. He met a lovely woman from there, went to visit her, and they eventually got married. He found a job and settled down. He would occasionally send us postcards or call. Now, he wanted to visit us in person, and I suggested he stay with us for a few days. I assigned Megan the task of preparing a room for our guests. However, this required her to clean up the guest room, which she had been using as a storage space for her clutter. But she had nowhere to put all those things. Why can't they, like normal people, stay in a hotel, for example? She protested. Where am I supposed to put all this stuff? I don't really care. I've been telling you for a long time not to gather everything that's lying around town. You've turned our home into a real warehouse. But you yourself said that many of these things are quite beautiful. Yes, I said that. Some of them are, but not all this junk. Look at it with open eyes. It's really just junk. I've suggested to you so many times that we should sell it all. And, in general, stop bringing everything into the house. David. What, David? I've tolerated your hobby for so long. But everything has its limits. Take all this stuff to the closet at least. Or else I'll throw all this crap to hell. Megan was taken aback by my sudden declaration. Yes, I lost my temper a bit. But I couldn't let my brother spend money on a hotel when we had plenty of space in our house. After giving my wife a stern look, making it clear that I wouldn't change my mind, I went to my garage to continue working on my car. A vintage vehicle that my grandfather had given me before he passed away. The car had been sitting unused for years, and I didn't have much hope of restoring it to its former glory. However, I enjoyed tinkering with the engine from time to time, finding solace in my own thoughts. A couple of hours later, when I returned to the house, I noticed that Megan was slowly moving items from her collection out of the guest room, trying to find a discreet place to store them. She was muttering something to herself in frustration. Is something wrong? I approached her as she arranged things on a shelf in the closet. She was startled when she suddenly noticed me. Damn it, David. Why did you have to startle me like that? Couldn't you cough or something? What? I didn't sneak up on you. What could you have been so engrossed in that you didn't notice me? Oh, nothing. Just thinking about where to put things. Why are you bothering me? Did you want something? I just wanted to ask if you needed help. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you so harshly. I lost my temper. Apologies. Megan squeezed a box onto the shelf between some folded clothes and turned to face me. What are you repairing? Are you repenting now? Fine. If you want to help, we need to move the dresser in the guest room. Why? Well, it will make some more space in there, and we can put that white vase in its place. I assisted her for a while longer as we tidied up the guest room. There were still quite a few items left, but she neatly arranged them on the shelves. Now I could comfortably accommodate my brother there. A couple of days later he arrived. It happened to be a weekend, and I had been waiting for his arrival since early in the morning. He arrived at our house by taxi closer to noon. Why did you take so long? I've been waiting for you for a while. And where's Samantha? I thought you'd come together. Hello to you too, little brother. She couldn't make it. Her work wouldn't let her take time off. But I didn't want to waste my vacation sitting at her place. Well, come in. We chatted for about an hour in the garage over some beer until Megan returned from the store. She greeted Matt and immediately started preparing a festive lunch to celebrate my brother's visit. Where are your kids, by the way? I haven't seen them around, my brother inquired. Oh, they went to their friends' places this morning. You know how kids are, always up to something important. But don't worry, they should be back soon, and you'll get to see them. I explained that I brought them a few gifts and also for both of you. By the way, Megan, could you bring those 2 bags? They're right next to you. The beige ones? Yes, my wife, excited about the prospect of receiving a few more items, eagerly retrieved the bags. She placed them on the table and sat down, anticipating the unveiling. Matt leisurely put his hand into the bag and just as leisurely began to pull something out, while watching my wife's curiosity. From the bags, Matt pulled out 2 books. One was a cookbook featuring English recipes for Megan, and the other was a guide to mechanics and repairing vintage cars for me. Matt, where did you find these? I personally liked his gift. Opening the book, I flipped through the pages and spotted a model of a car similar to the one gathering dust in my garage. This is exactly what I need. Thank you, brother. Well, I knew you had a bucket of nuts and bolts in your garage, so I searched for a manual for you. And you, Megan? Did you like it? Matt asked, but Megan seemed slightly disappointed. Her eyes conveyed that the cookbook didn't quite inspire her. Apparently she was expecting something different. Perhaps a trinket. Very thoughtful of you, she dryly replied. As if it's a reminder that a woman's place is in the kitchen. The kitchen? She got up, placed the cookbook on the table, and went back to preparing the salad for lunch. Why didn't you like it? I asked with reproach. I think it's a very nice gift. You can experiment with new dishes. Megan, where are you running off to? That's not all, Matt hastened to reassure her. He pulled out a small box from the other bag and placed it carefully on the table. Here you go, Megan. I've heard you love trinkets. This item is absolutely English in style, crafted by a master who lived in the last century. It's somewhat of a rarity. Megan even dropped her fork. Quickly wiping her hands on her apron, she rushed back to the table and began examining the gift. Oh, how lovely. Matt, you're amazing. She hugged him excitedly and planted a couple of kisses on his cheeks. I also brought something for the kids, but I'll wait until they get back, Matt mentioned. Later in the evening, when the kids returned, Matt delighted Stan with a brand new construction set and Josh with a new tennis racket, knowing that he had recently taken an interest in the sport. The children were thrilled with the presents from their uncle who had come all the way from England. Then my brother and I headed back to the garage, clutching my gift, and we tried to make sense of the car's engine. The next day, as my brother and I struggled with our hangovers, Megan informed me that she would be staying home for a few days to keep my brother company. What happened? Did you get fired? I asked. No, they're renovating our department, so they've sent most of us home for a week. There's nothing to do right now. So here's your hangover cure and you can go to work. I'll manage things here. I didn't pay much attention to her words at the time, assuming that she had indeed been granted a legitimate break from work, and I wasn't concerned about my brother being left alone for a few days. I knew him well enough to know that he could always find something to occupy himself. Megan seemed even pleased with the way things were working out. Now she had someone to show off her acquisitions to. After work, I always hurried home, and afterward, it was my turn to entertain my brother. In the evenings, we engaged in more masculine activities, either hanging out in the garage, watching football, or simply sitting on the bench outside, sharing updates on our lives. David, it's actually great that Matt came. It turns out he's quite handy. You know, he even fixed the shelf in the shower, Megan boasted one day when Matt had gone out for a walk on his own. I don't understand. What shelf are you talking about? I asked in surprise. Don't you see? You don't even remember that the shelf in our shower was broken. I told you about it 2 months ago. Oh right, I remember now. But you know I'm at work every day. You could have reminded me. Why should I remind you? You always have excuses, and after work you're always in the garage. Fine, don't complain. But you didn't need to involve Matt. He's here as a guest, and now you have him to household chores and work. He volunteered actually, and he fixed the leaking faucet too. She presented him in the best light possible. It's a shame he'll be leaving soon. Maybe you can convince him to stay for another week, huh? Hey, if I didn't know you better, I'd think you were falling for him. Don't say it, she protested. I'm pretty tired today. Dinner is on the table. The kids have already eaten. I'm gonna rest. I noticed that Megan had changed slightly in the past few days, but I hadn't yet grasped what had brought about this change. Nevertheless, In a couple of days, I had to bid farewell to my brother, and I tried to spend more time with him, uncertain when we would meet again. On the next day, when I returned home from work, I noticed several suitcases in the living room. Megan didn't say anything about going somewhere, and my brother didn't have so many belongings. I thought maybe she was finally cleaning up all the clutter that had been accumulating in our home. Curious about the contents of the suitcases, I attempted to open one. "It's mine," I heard her say behind me, barely touching the zipper lock. "Oh, you decided to tidy up? What changed your mind?" I was still hoping there was junk in the suitcases. "No, I'm leaving." I was so taken aback by the unexpected news that I sat down on the couch. "I don't understand, Megan. What is this about?" I gestured at the suitcases. "Where are you going? Did Matt invite you somewhere? I wouldn't mind if you went to visit them, but couldn't you have told me in advance? You didn't understand me. I said I'm leaving you." "What? What nonsense are you talking about?" It suddenly occurred to me how Megan had praised Matt, and how Matt had in turn shared a secret with me on the second to last evening, when we had a bit too much to drink. He told me that he hadn't been living normally with his wife for a long time and had started seeing someone else. But he hadn't mentioned who it was. "Megan, are you saying you're dating Matt? Where is that scoundrel? I'll show him not to steal another man's wife." I jumped up from the couch, ready to search the guest room where my brother had stayed. "He's not here," Megan grabbed my arm. "And it's not him. It's not Matt. Look, Megan, if you're just trying to mess with me, enough already." It's not funny anymore, but she looked at me as if she regretted what she had confessed, and I understood that her words were deadly serious. What could have driven her to do this? What had I missed? "I don't understand, Megan. Are you serious? But why? How can you just throw away all these years of our life?" "For whom? You don't know him. But he's a very nice person. He doesn't scold me for collecting all these trinkets. I wanted to leave while you were still at work. I even left a note for you today. But you came back early for some reason." "You bitch," I muttered. "What?" Megan asked, not hearing clearly. "I said you're a bitch. How could you?" I jumped up from the couch. "No, this won't do. Do you really think I'll just let you leave like this?" At that moment, the door opened and Matt walked in. "What's going on here?" I heard screaming outside. "And what kind of cab is parked out there? Going somewhere?" He saw the suitcases. "None of your business," I yelled at him in the heat of the moment. But realizing now that it wasn't his fault, I calmed my anger a little. "I'm sorry, Matt. It's just this news. What happened?" He kept asking. "Matt, don't ask. Just help me carry my suitcases to the cab," Megan commanded and took one of them. I wasn't gonna let her go so easily. I grabbed her by the arm and pushed her onto the couch, and she fell onto it, her hairstyle disheveled from the impact. One of the suitcases she was about to carry slipped from her hand, hit the floor, and the latch broke open, spilling its contents. But these weren't just Megan's belongings, not her usual women's things or the clutter she collected. In the suitcase, I saw several expensive items that had been given to us as wedding gifts, our silverware, and 2 awards our eldest son had won in competitions. "I don't understand. What the hell is this? Where were you planning to take all of this?" I shouted. Megan just sat there staring at me as if she were seeing all of this for the first time. Horrible suspicions began to creep into my mind. Matt too stood there in shock, watching the scene unfold. Our silence was interrupted by a knock on the door. I hadn't been expecting anyone, nor did I want to see anyone at that moment. Remembering that my brother had mentioned a taxi, I thought the driver must have grown impatient and decided to hurry the passenger along. Filled with anger, I rushed to the door, intending to escort the taxi driver away. But when I opened the door, I saw a young girl on the threshold. She timidly looked at me but hesitated to ask, "What do you want?" I gruffly said, "We're not buying cookies." "What cookies? I'm sorry, I came to see Josh. Is he home?" "Oh, you're one of his classmates." "No, he's gone somewhere. I'll tell him you stopped by." "What's your name?" "Linda? But I'm not his classmate, just an acquaintance." "We're friends." "All right, I'll catch up with him later." She turned and walked toward the gate, swaying her young behind in a short skirt. For a moment, I even forgot what had just happened in our house. But a few seconds later, as I closed the door and returned to the living room, I remembered everything. Filled with anger, I moved toward my wife to continue our confrontation. When I entered, I noticed that she and Matt had been whispering to each other quietly. As soon as they noticed me, they stopped and sat in different corners of the couch. What's going on here? Why were you whispering without me? No, David, I was just trying to calm her down. You see, she was really scared, Matt replied. Scared? I'm not surprised. I caught her trying to steal from her own family. Matt, are you really that foolish? Why are you being so kind to her? Well, maybe there's a reasonable explanation for all of this. Let's hear her out. Megan sat on the couch, timidly fixing her hair and avoiding eye contact, as if she were trying to find the right words. Go on. Why are you silent? I yelled. David, that man, his mother is very ill. She needs surgery. I was gonna return everything later. He promised he would reimburse us over time. I don't understand. What the hell is this about his mother? Are you trying to make a fool out of me? I continued to pace back and forth in the room. You know what? If you're so tired of living in a normal family, then get out of here. But you won't take anything with you. Absolutely nothing. Got it? But David, get out, you wretch. I don't want to see you here anymore, I continued to shout. Megan burst into tears. My anger only grew stronger. In the meantime, Matt noticed that my fury was escalating and tried to calm me down. He came over to me and suggested we go to the kitchen. David, come on, mate. Listen, maybe she got carried away. It happens to everyone. Don't be like this. It's life. It happens to all of us. Let it go. She'll come to her senses. You'll see. How about we have a beer, huh? But at that moment, I didn't want anything except to tear apart that wife betrayer and the Alphonse who had messed with her head. Only my brother didn't give up, and eventually he managed to calm my anger a bit. I allowed Megan to stay at home for now, but she had to return all the things she was planning to take away and dispose of her junk, or prepare it for a sale so that I wouldn't see any unnecessary stuff in the house anymore. Megan, in turn, asked for my forgiveness for her impulsive and thoughtless actions, admitting that she understood how wrong she had been. She swore that she would try to make things right. I of course didn't believe her. I just allowed her to stay home for the sake of the children, who were fortunately at their friend's place all evening and didn't witness the mess she had caused. The next day, it was time for Matt to return home. I even took a day off from work to spend some quality time with my brother. However, he asked me not to accompany him to the airport, saying he'd prefer to say goodbye here, in the comfort of our home. The kids had already bid him farewell in the morning, knowing that they'd miss his departure due to their lessons. Megan had prepared a farewell lunch in the morning, wanting to send something homemade with my brother on his journey. Come on, it's not necessary, my brother objected. You cook deliciously, but I won't take anything with me. And David, think about what we talked about. Family is important. See how she's repenting. He nodded towards my wife. There was some truth in his words, but I was still resentful of Megan. Not so much for finding herself some guy, but for wanting to betray our family for him. I'll think about it. And you promised to write. I hope everything goes well for you. You should also think about your own family. We said goodbye to him, and he left for the airport, and my wife and I stayed home. But we hardly spoke to each other until evening. Although she tried to make conversation, I didn't want to listen to her, at least not now. When the kids came back, we tried to behave in front of them as usual, so they wouldn't suspect anything. Oh, it's going to be quiet in the house again, Josh said when he returned from school, and noticed that the house had become quieter. Yeah, your uncle is coming back home. Oh, by the way, Josh, did your girlfriend find you? Linda, I think. Linda? I don't know that one. We don't have one in our class. Yeah, she said she doesn't go to school with you, that you're just friends. Believe me, Dad. I know better who my friends are, and there's no Linda among them. Josh went to his room, taking some cookies his mother had baked, and I thought that maybe I had confused the name of the girl who had visited us yesterday. But it wasn't that important to me, and I pushed it out of my mind as I went to prepare to relax. The next day, I was returning home from work in a good mood. I had spent the whole day pondering my brother's advice, weighing the pros and cons, and realized that forgiving Megan would be the best thing for our family. Despite her recent actions, we had spent so many years together raising our children, and I decided to forgive her. On my way home, I even stopped by the store and bought a bottle of wine to sit down with her in the evening and celebrate a fresh start. But when I entered the house, I realized that disappointments in my life hadn't ended, they had just begun. I didn't notice it immediately, only when I entered the kitchen and saw that nothing had been prepared for dinner. Not even the dishes had been washed. Everything was as it had been in the morning. I went looking for Megan to ask her what had happened, but I couldn't find her anywhere. After searching all the rooms, I realized she wasn't in the house. I also noticed that many things were missing, and many of them were the things Megan had tried to take with her. "Hey, do you know where Mom is?" I asked my youngest son. "No, Dad. She wasn't here when I got back, and Josh hasn't come home yet," he replied. I didn't tell my son anything more, but I suspected that Megan had indeed carried out her previous plan and was now somewhere selling my things with some scammer. I couldn't just let it go. Heading downstairs, I dialed her number, hoping to get some explanations. But she didn't answer the phone. Sitting on the couch, I realized that she had decided to cut all ties with me. But why like this? Without saying anything, just quietly running away. After a couple of unsuccessful attempts to reach her, I realized she probably wouldn't answer. That's when I decided to take action and called the police. At the station, I described in detail the evening when she first tried to escape and what had happened that day. I also told them about the missing items, but since I hadn't checked everything yet, I promised to contact them later to add anything that was missing. I wanted to find my wife, get an explanation from her, and retrieve my belongings. When they promised to do their best, I left for the exit. But I was stopped in the corridor by one of the policemen. He had heard my story and honestly told me that my case probably wouldn't be pursued diligently. He advised me to contact a private detective, saying that it would be a faster and more accurate way to get results. He even gave me his business card. To be honest, this is my uncle. He left the police force because he didn't share their views. You know how it goes. He started his own agency. Yes, he's just starting out, but he has years of experience behind him. You won't regret it. The young policeman's words sounded sincere. I took the business card, though I wasn't sure yet whether I would contact the detective, but by the time I got home, I decided to give him a call. After explaining the situation, he said he would gladly take the case and quoted a fee for his services. My thirst to find the traitor drove me to agree. After hanging up, I went to our safe in the bedroom to prepare the money. But when I opened the door, it was empty. Apart from the cash, I also noticed that my grandfather's ring was missing. It wasn't particularly valuable, but I kept it as a memory of him. "Oh, damn," I muttered, looking around to make sure the kids hadn't heard me. Realizing that I didn't have the necessary amount of cash, I went to an ATM to withdraw it from my account. However, the ATM gave me an unpleasant message. There wasn't enough money in the account. Confused, I checked the account balance and saw that there was almost nothing left. Again, I cursed and decided to resort to extreme measures. I tried to withdraw money from the account we had set up for Josh's education, but unfortunately, that account was also empty. I stood in front of the ATM, furious and ready to tear apart the woman who had betrayed me. Just then, my mobile phone rang. The number was unknown, but I decided to answer it. To my immense surprise, it was Megan on the line. She was crying and asking me to pick her up from the train station. At that moment, I didn't understand the true reason why I went to pick her up, whether to find out everything or to get the truth out of her. Nevertheless, I soon found myself at the location she had indicated. Megan was sitting on a bench, still sobbing quietly. I approached her and sat down, staring ahead. She saw me and burst into even stronger tears. "David, please forgive me. He deceived all of us. Both me and you. He said he loved me and would help us increase our capital so that Josh would have enough and we would too. Matt just took advantage. I don't understand. What does Matt have to do with this?" I interrupted her. "Oh, David, Matt is the man I was planning to leave with. And then she told me, in tears, that Matt had been so charming while he was staying with them, that he had made her fall in love with him, and promised her lots of things, including more money. He talked her into taking all her expensive things out of the house and withdrawing all her money. He promised to take her to a place where she would never have to cook or clean again, and promised her a life of paradise. And when she pawned all the jewelry and other things, and then with a suitcase of money came to meet him at the station, he asked her to wait until he went to get the tickets. But she waited and waited. The train came and he still wasn't there. She only saw him getting into the carriage with a young girl with blonde hair and revealing clothes. From the description, I guessed which girl she meant. Apparently, Linda hadn't come to see my son but was looking for Matt, and when she couldn't find him, she told me the first thing that came into her head. I was stabbed in the back again, only now by my own brother. I didn't expect this from him, but from anyone. But the detective I'd been assigned to did his job very well, and quickly tracked down Matt and his accomplice. As it turned out, he'd been divorced for a couple of years and had been running a scam with his new girlfriend. And I wasn't even sorry that he'd gotten jail time for his crimes. I was just sorry that my brother was the perpetrator. And with my wife, I couldn't communicate properly for a long time. I couldn't trust her or take her back as my wife. But I allowed her to come home just for the sake of the children. And I made her clean up the house, throwing out all the junk she had previously brought into the house. If you enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment. It's important for us and will help promote this video. Thank you for watching us.